So Tom Nichols wrote a piece the other day, and then he was on, I think I saw him on MSNBC last night talking about it. And what he said was, Donald Trump, and this, he also made the same point on one of the social media, I think Twitter, I saw this on. He wrote, Donald Trump ran in order of importance for 3 reasons. Stay out of prison, get revenge on his enemies, enrich himself and the people around him by every means possible. Everything else is just window dressing. I absolutely 100% agree with that. And I've been saying this from the beginning, even while he was running. The primary reason above everything else, and really there's no close second, and these are reasons, I mean, get revenge and enrich himself. He really began, I think, only to focus on those things in earnest after he won. The primary reason, which trumped everything else, was to stay out of prison. That was first and foremost, because that is where he was headed. The only reason he's not going to prison. By the way, let me finish the sentence. The only reason he's not going to prison is because the American people stupidly reelected him. But the point I was going to make was, it seems to me from a lot of the comments that I get to my videos that a lot of people seem to think that the Supreme Court dismissed the cases against Trump, or that the prosecutions, weren't successful because I made a post the other day saying something like, Donald Trump needs to be impeached and removed from office and prosecuted for his many crimes. And people said things like, we tried prosecuting him before and that didn't work, or something like that. Yeah, because those cases had to be dropped because the American people reelected him. The reason the prosecutions, I don't want to get off on this. Maybe I'll do another video. I've actually been itching to do another video about Merrick Garland again. The reason why those prosecutions were not successful is because we ran out of time. And the American people, again, stupidly reelected Donald Trump, and the cases had to be dismissed. The prosecutions didn't fail. The prosecutions didn't have enough time to be concluded. And that goes back to Merrick Garland, who waited 2 years before he did a damn thing. If he had appointed Jack Smith on day 1, as he should have, we would have been 2 years further along in the process, and Donald Trump would have been convicted long before he would have had a chance to be reelected. So it's not that the prosecutions failed. They didn't. They weren't given time to succeed because the American people are morons. And the Supreme Court did not dismiss the cases against Donald Trump, even as bad as that decision was, and it was among the worst in American history. Even still, they could have dismissed those indictments. They could have just said, nope, he's immune, completely immune. These indictments are dismissed. No, they didn't do that. They allowed the prosecutions to proceed. They limited the prosecutions in terms of the kind of evidence that can be admissible at trial. But those cases would have continued for sure. And the evidence that would still have come in would still have been overwhelming. And this man would have gone to trial. He almost certainly would have been convicted and be sent to prison. So that's what Donald Trump was looking at. That's why he was running. First and foremost, to stay out of prison. Once he accomplished that goal, of course, then his full attention went to the getting revenge on his enemies and enriching himself and the people around him by every means possible. And we've seen that on full display this whole time. Both of those things. And then Nichols says everything else is just window dressing. Now that's kind of the part that I want to talk about here briefly. Because we've seen in the last couple days there being some rifts, and really it's been longer than a couple days. There've been several issues now where the MAGA cult is having a hard time supporting Donald Trump in some of this stuff. Now, he's never going to lose the cult in their entirety, for sure. But some of these people may begin to wake up, and some of them seem to be. And some of them are really struggling with this. You know, first of the Iran stuff, I mean, most of them cheerleaded it, but a lot of these people for whom no more foreign entanglements, no more wars, some of those people really believed in Trump's bullshit lines about that. And they were not at all happy. People like, I believe, Marjorie Taylor Greene was pissed off about Trump bombing Iran. And so there was that. There is, now we're going to be sending defensive arms to Ukraine. Boy, that's pissing a lot of them off because they've been conditioned to hate Ukraine. So now they're like, well, now we're giving them weapons. I mean, their heads are exploding and they're having a real hard time with it. And then, of course, the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Man, that is just great. They're really struggling with that one. But my point is, in bringing up this Tom Nichols, his points here, is that there's going to be a lot more of this because Donald Trump doesn't care about anything other than what he says here in this list. Staying out of prison, check. Getting revenge, that will be an ongoing endeavor. And enriching himself. Everything else is just window dressing. He doesn't care about policy. He's never going to stand for election again. So he doesn't have to worry about that. And even if you say, well, he's never leaving office, he's going to try to stay in office illegally, he may. I've talked about that, and we'll talk about that more. But yeah, I don't put it past him. We saw him try to overthrow the Republic last time. I mean, someone who's going to incite a violent insurrection against another branch of government to stay in power illegally, yeah, you can't put anything past him. So maybe he will use the military or his new secret police, ICE, with their massive budget to try to stay in power illegally. Yeah, he might do that. But there won't be an election involved. He's not going to be standing for re-election again. He doesn't ever have to give a shit about getting votes ever again, even if he does try to stay in office illegally. And he doesn't care about policies. Oh, the other thing that's pissed him off recently is saying that, oh, well, we're not going to deport everybody. Illegal aliens who work on farms, well, they get to stay. Or I'll leave it up to the farmer. Why should we take away the farmers, laborers? No, we're not going to do that. That pissed him off. The people who really believed him about immigration, that we're going to do mass deportations and get all of them out, they don't want to hear anything about amnesty. And they're pissed at Trump. They're saying, now Trump is doing amnesty for farm workers. And Trump is like, it's not amnesty. I mean, call it a fucking porcupine. It doesn't matter what you call it. You're exempting them from the laws. Or you're saying that there's no consequence. They get to stay even though they came in here illegally. That's amnesty. It doesn't matter what you call it. And just telling them, well, it's not amnesty. Even your idiot Trump, even your idiot cult supporters might not be swayed by that stupid line. So Trump is, he's already pissed him off a bunch, and he's going to piss him off more. Because he doesn't have to pretend. He doesn't have to pander to these people anymore. Now, he still does because he wants the adulation. And he doesn't want to lose. Let's be clear. He doesn't want to lose these people. But he also has other interests now that will come into conflict with what his cult wants. And more, those other interests are going to supersede. If grifting money, committing crimes to enrich himself, if those things ever come in conflict with the cult, he's gonna decide in favor of committing the crimes and whatever other grift. So say he decides to start, I don't know, selling his urine in tiny little vials, to the cult. And he's just raking in money hand over fist. Just racking up millions of dollars in sales of his orange urine. If there is some contingent of his cult that is offended by that for some reason, and that's probably not a good example because I can't imagine any of them being offended by that. I can't imagine any of them doing anything but buying. You know, please take my money, give me that urine. You know, so that's probably not a good example. But anyway, say there was some other grift, and he's making a lot of money from it, but some in his cult are really offended by it or angry about it. You got a conflict there. Do I stop the grift in order to appease the cult, or do I continue with the grift? Well, he's probably going to continue with the grift. He doesn't need their votes anymore, but he wants that money. So, you know, and there'll be other things too, just like with the, you know, the farm laborers. The cult wants them all gone, but the rich oligarch class who bought and paid for his presidency and who are going to do deals with him, you know, for that, you know, will enrich him further. You know, bribes and kickbacks and, you know, payoffs and things like that. He's not going to disappoint them because that means money to him. So he's, you know, the oligarchs call up and say, no, you're not deporting our cheap labor. So Trump won't deport those people. There's a conflict there. Cult wants them gone. The oligarchs don't. Oligarchs are going to win. And so there's things like this that are going to come up throughout the next 3.5 years that are going to put his personal interests in conflict with the cult. And more, probably not every time, but more and more, you're going to see the cult getting screwed over. Trump's going to say like, fuck those people. I don't really need them. You know? I'm getting sick of having to pander to them, pretending that I'm religious and all of that stuff. I'm getting tired of it. You know, so they better get used to disappointment is the thing, because Tom Nichols has got Trump's number exactly right. He ran in order of importance for 3 reasons: stay out of prison, get revenge, and enrich himself. Everything else is just window dressing. You better understand that, Trump cult. You're not on this list. Making you people happy? Not on this list. He doesn't give a shit about you. You just friggin' cut your Medicaid. You're too stupid to realize what just happened to you. You were cheering it. My God, you people are stupid. And I would say, you know, you'll wake up, you'll see, you'll figure it out, but, you know, you probably won't. It's what makes you Trump cultists in the first place. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon.